His ICE raids make for really good political theater. And I think that even though it's largely theater now, I think there's forces at work behind the scenes that are going to use the tension and the anger and the resentment and the feelings that these ICE raids are generating to conduct real life, real world, what you might call false flag operations.
Get ready for news and views from Lubbock, Texas, USA. What's going on and real talk with people who move and do things. This is the Focus LBK Show with your host, Robert Jenkins.
Hey, what's good, LBK? This is your brother, Robert Jenkins, coming to you with episode 109 of the Focus LBK Show. I tell you what, man, if you're paying attention to things in this country, they're kind of worrying. You know what I'm saying? The things that are going on. And I guess what I want to talk about today is the fact that Trump's ICE raids, his immigrations and custom enforcement ICE, his ICE raids make for really good political theater. But I think they are just that. It's theater. And I think both sides are engaged in it. And I think that even though it's largely theater now, I think there's forces at work behind the scenes that are going to use the tension and the anger and the resentment and the feelings that these ICE raids are generating to conduct real life, real world, what you might call false flag operations. You've already seen, and that's not far-fetched. Anybody thinks it's far-fetched, you just haven't been paying attention, because you've already seen at ICE facilities all around the country, you've already seen leftists, violent Antifa types shooting places up. And that place in Dallas, ICE facility in Dallas, wasn't even a deportation facility. It was a administrative facility where you go to have hearings and stuff like that. Shot that up, killed the illegal aliens that was on the van, by the way. So apparently missed their targets. They said they couldn't see inside the van. They just opened fired on it. So the bottom, what I'm getting at here is you've got people, misguided people running around the country trying to stop these immigration raids. Well, all this violence that's at play, all of this dramatic raid footage, all of this sending troops into this Memphis and DC and Chicago and all these places. I think what we're doing here is getting set up and getting played so that somebody can conduct a false flag operation and do something truly violent with using these raids and these National Guard deployments as an excuse. That's what you do in a false flag. You take something and you use it as an excuse to conduct a violent operation, and then you usually blame it on your enemies. So, I mean, you were seeing a situation where somebody could come in and kill a bunch of illegal aliens at one of these ICE raids or one of these facilities and blame it on Trump followers, or somebody could just come in and blame something on the National Guard or blow up something. And the next thing you know, the point I'm making is this: it's all this theater. And I think this stuff is theater. And I'm going to get into why I think it's theater, political theater. I'm going to get into that. I want to tell y'all at the outset, if you've been listening for a while, you know I'm a libertarian. I'm not a left or right person. I think both sides are full of it. And I hate politics because politics is essentially the art of giving up your own personal power to people who promise to do things for you, but who never do. Never do anything for you. Black people ought to be realizing that right about now with the Democrats. So you look at the spectacle of these Democratic hellhole cities that have been Democratic for 60, 70, 80 years, solely Democrat run, most of them black run. Baltimore, Chicago, heavily black. Memphis, heavily black. All of these places that are Democrat run, that are nonetheless haven't done anything for their populations in 60, 70, 80 years during the whole time when they've been essentially the sole political power in those cities. They've let crime run amok. They've let drug use and homelessness run amok. And now they've let the last 30, 40 years, but in general, but in specific, the last 5 years, they've let illegal immigration run amok. Now, I want y'all to know, as far as I can tell, all of this is a choice. When your city allows violence to happen and not be fixed, that's a choice. Your political leaders in those cities, these Democrats in this case, with the homelessness, the drugs, the illegal aliens, and the violence, these are Democrat-run cities. Again, places have been Democrat for 68, 70, 80 years. The Democrats are playing a power game. They could end homelessness whenever they choose. They could end violence whenever they choose. They could end illegal aliens flooding the zone, as it were, whenever they choose. I'm sure they can. And you know how I know? Think back a few months ago, about 6, 7, 8 months ago, Xi Jinping, the president of China, and other world leaders came to San Francisco. And you know San Francisco is a hellhole. They literally have a app on your phone for places like San Francisco where you can see where there's human feces on the ground so you can avoid it. These are the places where people just break into your car as a matter of course. So people start leaving their windows down and leaving the car doors unlocked in these places. Because that way, look, just take whatever you want, but don't break my window. I ain't got nothing in here. But you break my window, that's $300-$400 right there. These are crap hole cities, hellhole cities. But they are allowed to be that way on purpose. Because when China, Xi Jinping, the president of China, when he wanted to visit San Francisco a while back, Gavin Newsom, governor of California, cleaned up the homelessness and drugs in that city in 2 weeks. The people that were there said it was pristine, looked like it used to look 40 years ago. So overnight, practically in 2 weeks, Gavin Newsom cleaned up San Francisco so he would look good on the world stage when China came. Now let that sink in for a minute. And by the way, he admitted that he did this. He admitted that he cleaned it up for the visit. He said, yeah, when you have company over your house, you got to clean up. Wait a minute, dude. When you have company over your house, you got to clean up. That's what he said. Gavin Newsom said that. So you mean the people that live in your city and pay taxes, they're not good enough for you to clean the city up for? People's kids that have to live there and go to school there, people that work there, these people, your own citizens, they're not worth cleaning up for. But when Chinese leadership comes over here, you want to clean up and admit that it's, hey, well, you got company, you got to clean your house. That's disgusting. But listen to what he said. He cleaned up the drugs and homelessness camps in 2 weeks, which is practically overnight. Remember, California 10 years ago enacted some kind of homelessness plan. We're going to stop homelessness. It's been 10 years. They ain't stopped it. It's gotten worse. You know why it's gotten worse? Because when you pay for stuff, you get more of it. When you subsidize stuff, you get more of it. These leftist leaders, and I don't want to tar and feather all Democrats because, like I said, I don't really care if you're a Democrat or Republican. To me, it's all politics. I don't have try not to have a dog in that fight. But when your own leadership tells you, yeah, I clean the city up for guests, for foreign guests, not for you, not for my tax-paying residents who live here, that tells you it is a choice to have homelessness. It is a choice to have crime and rampant drug use on the streets and people defecating and urinating and having sexual intercourse on the street. Those are choices. Those are political choices. They're making a choice that, hey, we want to do this for a political reason. One reason they make that choice, by the way, is because, as I alluded to just now, you get money for it. You can start programs, you get grants from the federal government, you get this, that, and the other. It is big business not to do away with homelessness, not to do away with illegal immigration, not to do away with criminals. It is big business to allow that stuff to run rampant. Now you get to have a commission that spends millions of dollars to study the issue. And then you got to have some commissioners who sit on the board and make $150,000 a year to study the problem and come up with solutions like, let's hand out needles. Did y'all know that? They hand out needles in places like Portland, Oregon, and San Francisco and Oakland. Demand reduction, they call it. You ain't reducing the demand of drugs. You're subsidizing it, so you're going to get more of it. If you pay for something, People are going to do it because they can get paid. In economics, it's saying that's called subsidies. If you subsidize something or pay for it, in other words, you get more of it. Common sense. If you pay homeless people, give them stipends to get a hotel room and get cleaned up, you give them free needles, you give them a place to shoot up, you make it safe and accessible. Well, you'd be foolish if you were a homeless person not to take advantage of that, wouldn't you? So, of course, you get more of it. I was watching a podcast years ago when we used to live in Baltimore, and it was a young white cop. He was retired, I think, but he was talking to, I think it was Joe Rogan. He was talking to him about how crime is generational, not only in the people that do it, but in the areas. Because he said they were cleaning out the police department one time in Baltimore, cleaning out some old room that had never been, hadn't been messed with since the 70s or 80s. They were expanding or something. And he said they found some records in the file cabinet and they opened them up. And he said it kind of blew his mind because in the records, it was like crime cases, court case files, things that murders and drug dealing. And he said, man, the same last names at the same blocks and the same residences in some cases was the same people doing those crimes back in the 70s that today, when you go in that same neighborhood on the same block, you see the same last names of people getting picked up, committing the crime. We've long known that crime is committed by a small group of criminals over and over again. You know what I'm saying? It's a small pool of people in a certain location that do most of the crime in most areas, in most high crime areas. Well, police know precisely where those areas are. Police know precisely who's dealing drugs. Even E40 one time alluded to the fact that crime exists to the exact proportion that the political class allow it to exist. So when you have a crime problem in your city and it's ridiculous and out of control, you can bet that somebody is profiting off that. Somebody somewhere is making money off of your misery. Living in squalor, in crime-infested, drug-infested, homeless-infested neighborhoods that look like the Walking Dead walking around. Somebody's making money off of that. And it ain't going to be you, the poor working class people that live in that area. It's going to be the people who make the decisions about those areas. The political class makes money off of crime and lawlessness, including illegal immigration, they call it. It ain't no immigration if you do it illegally. Immigration is a legal process. You know what I'm saying? So, just Malcolm X commented on this. He used to be a pimp, used to be a burglar, a thief, and living in living among prostitutes and working on the street and stuff like that. He learned firsthand how crime is only exists because it's allowed to. In other words, if there's political willpower to stop something, it will be stopped. If people are making money and getting power off of allowing a problem to get worse, guess what? That problem is going to keep getting worse. Why would you stop homelessness in California if you're Gavin Newsom when you got $10 million to do this and $8 million to do that and it's allowed to exist because it makes money. If you don't believe me too, think about what we're seeing on TV right now with the ICE raids. Under the Biden administration, they let in, some people say 10, 15 million illegal aliens just under Biden. I think overall we probably got 40 million illegal aliens in this country. Now, from a human perspective, I feel for those people. I know they try to make a better life for themselves, many of them. On the other hand, I know for a fact that many of them are criminals, drug traffickers, human traffickers, just bad people. That's just a simple fact. Even my military experience teaches me that. The stuff I used to be involved in the military. You go, oh, yeah, I see. People trying to come into the country who are clearly terrorists or clearly drug dealers. Mm-hmm. It happens. So when you let 40 million people in and you don't know who any of them are, clearly you're going to have some bad apples in that bunch. But guess what? You don't stop that from happening if you make your city, for example, or your state a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state? Because now you're telling them, you're putting out a welcome mat to these illegal aliens coming in, and you're saying, come here. Do you think it's a coincidence that Tren de Aragua, a dangerous drug gang from Venezuela that you never heard of, come to find out they're camped out in Denver, Colorado, and own whole apartment complexes that they run? Now think about this. You see on TV, the government under Trump coming in, they know exactly where these people are. They know exactly which businesses hire illegal aliens, so they do raids at those businesses. They know exactly where these people live and stay. They know exactly how to get a hold of them. They know exactly what they're charged with. They know exactly where they came from and what they did back over there. But yet, they still somehow managed to be here for years. That's because it's my contention that these things are allowed to continue. When you become a sanctuary city, when you say we're a sanctuary city for illegal aliens, and your population, you got these little small towns like that little Pennsylvania town where you get 4,000 people or something like that actually live there, and 6,000 people that's immigrants. Your population doubles in a matter of a few months, and they're all being paid by some NGO, non-governmental organization, so-called non-governmental, meaning it's just a slush fund for government funds to go into to pay for stuff like this. Well, first of all, you get that money. If you're running that city, and if you're complicit with that type of immigration, illegal aliens coming in willy-nilly, you get that money. You don't think the people that run that get a cut off the top of those funds, those federal funds? You don't think that's known? You don't think that's why it happens? Here's another way you get power. Elected representatives. Representatives under the Constitution, you get representatives based on the amount of population you have. Yeah, I looked at it. It don't say nothing about legal or illegal. It says numbers, raw numbers. If you got more population, you get more representatives in the House of Representatives. So you get more political representation by leaving the borders open and saying we're a sanctuary city, come here. You see how I'm saying? The people that do this get money and power off of doing it. That's why it continues. That's why crime, illegal immigration, drugs, and homelessness are done on purpose. They are political moves that the people in power get more power and more money from allowing. The people that want to disallow them, I'm not saying the Republicans are all good and great. I'm saying they have their own scams too. But let's realize how the game is being played. Now, when Trump sends in the National Guard, people that may not be old enough don't remember this, but I think, who was it? Starting with Lyndon Johnson, John F. Kennedy, several other presidents, Eisenhower, I think was the first to do it. They sent in, and they didn't send in no 120 troops, 300 troops. How you going to send 200 troops to a city of 8 million people? What that's supposed to do? Nothing. I think this is all political theater. It's for show. You go over to these cities, you send some National Guard in. They might even arrest a few people. They might even arrest a few hundred people. They might even get some guns off the street. It kind of feels like a victory. Some people are going to look at that and say, yeah, that's all right. Now, we even got black residents from places like Memphis and DC saying, man, I was skeptical at first, but man, I can walk down my own block now without fear of getting shot. I haven't heard a gunshot in 3 weeks. First of all, can I ask you this? How sad is that? What do you really like your leadership if they have let that situation exist? They have let a situation exist where I was watching this one video where this lady said she's lived here 5 years. She's never been able to enjoy her house in Memphis because it's too much violence. Now, all of a sudden, Trump brings a few National Guard in. Black lady saying, man, I can actually enjoy my house in my backyard for the first time ever in 5 years. You don't feel upset at your political leadership that you elected, who are in power in your city? You're not upset at them? If Trump can send in a handful of National Guards and in 2 weeks, crime is down to the point where you feel safe to move around for the first time ever, you don't feel upset at that? Does anybody else not look at that and say, how pitiful is that? How sad is that? Why didn't the Democratic leadership, or the Democrat leadership of that city, Memphis in this case, why didn't they stop the crime? Again, I guarantee Every police officer and every police captain and every political leader in that city knows exactly where crime is happening. All this high-tech stuff we got, you trying to tell me they don't know where those criminals are? I guarantee they know where they are. Or they could easily find out if they decided to do so. Clearly they can, because Trump just came in with National Guard, and it's safer than it's ever been in this lady's whole time she's owned her house. That's pitiful. But you see how the game is played? My fear is that they're going to use this National Guard situation. It's going to be like, oh, all these illegal aliens and all these criminals and all these Antifas. I call them Antifers. All these Antifers. We're going to have to crack down on people's ID. They're going to run a digital ID. They always bring that back and forth. They tried it during COVID. They wanted to have vaccine passes. Your medical records all digitized so you can't move around. They can lock your money down, by the way, if they know exactly who you are and you got a digital ID that you have to use for all online transactions. That's the thing they're pushing. That's why Trump was hollering at Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, and they was bringing in Palantir. Palantir is it's a intelligence system. I think in history, a Palantir has something to do with some oracle or something. You know, this oracle with Ralph. What's that guy named? Ralph Ellison? Not Ralph Ellison. That's the Invisible Man author. But you get what I'm saying. All these companies that are these tech bros that are coming into power, they're going to come in and they're going to be like, oh, we have to solve this problem. This illegal aliens, this crime, this drugs, blah, blah, with digital IDs. And we got to solve it with central bank digital currency. You know what that means, right? That means instead of having $1 in your pocket, most money will be digital. It pretty much is now anyway, but there may come a time when you don't even have cash. It's all digital. And when that happens, you are a slave, my friend. You know why? Because you won't be able to not do whatever they tell you to do. Because they're going to know exactly who you are with your digital identity, verified biometrically. So anytime, it's the mark of the beast, is what it is. You're not going to be able to buy and sell. People say, oh, you crazy, man. They ain't going to have. Y'all ain't apparently familiar with what happened in Canada during COVID. They had truckers up there that didn't want to get the shots, the jabs. So they staged protests, actual peaceful protests, where they were basically having tailgate parties. And instead of driving loads like they're supposed to be, they were shutting the economy down, just chilling, having tailgate parties. Justin Trudeau, the liberal left leader who's so good and so handsome, who looks suspiciously like Fidel Castro. Some people say he's Fidel Castro's son. I don't know. Sure acts like a Fidel Castro, because what he did during these literally actual peaceful protests is he shut down those truckers' bank accounts. Not only did he shut down the truckers' bank accounts, he shut down the bank accounts of their family and anybody who was at the rallies. Way I understand it. So imagine that. You standing in solidarity with something you strongly believe in. The government is opposed to what you believe in. So they just turn off all your money and credit. See, that's what's the end game, I think, of one of the possible end games of all this stuff that they're doing right now with Trump and the ICE things. That we already see. I think I've made the case that they can stop crime whenever they want. They can find these illegal aliens anytime they want. You see it on TV every day. They know all about him. His name is this, and he came from this country where he was accused of it. Well, if you know all that, why you ain't got him before now? Political will was lacking. So it's just the perfect time for them to be like, yo, actually, to stop these problems, we're going to have the central bank digital currency, meaning all money will be digital, and you're going to have digital ID, mandatory digital ID. So we know what you do. When you go online, there is no anonymity online. You ain't going to go online and choose no avatar and make up a name. You won't be able to do that. You'll have to take your digital ID and enter it. They're going to know who you are, no matter what avatar or pseudonym you use. That's going to be potentially one of the consequences of the way these ICE raids are going, the way these National Guard deployments are going. I think, in other words, what I'm trying to tell you, folks, I think it's all a big setup. Government loves to have power over you. And they love to use made-up crises in which they may or may not be causing to, pardon my pun, to trump up stuff to get that power over you. So that's what I see happening. It may not happen this time around, but every time they do something like this, we get closer and closer to those nightmare situations that I'm alluding to. Boy, I tell you what, it's just discouraging because most people simply look at it like, oh, left and right. The legal aliens, they just want a life. Maybe they do. But the people that let them in on purpose. It's just the same way we have these pointless wars. The Iraq and Afghanistan debacles, 20 years of nothing. 20 years of wanton violence and destruction with nothing to show for it. We have nothing to show for that. We didn't get anything for doing that. Oh, wait, maybe I'm wrong. We did get something from those wars. We got tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of millions of immigrants flowing into Europe from places like Syria and Afghanistan. United States gets plenty of Afghan people over here. Where was that guy that crashed that truck in Florida from? He was from somewhere over there. Guy that got the fake CDL from California because they love to let in illegal aliens and give them driver's licenses. This guy had a CDL, can't even read or speak English, pulled across that highway in Florida just as casually as you please and killed all those people in that minivan. Y'all seen that footage, right? Guy gets out the car. He has no expression on his face whatsoever while it's happening, by the way. He looks like a automaton. Looks like a robot. Like, dude, you just killed a car full of people from pulling an illegal U-turn in a truck. It's so ridiculous. When you look at the footage, you're like, you could be 3 years old and know you can't make a turn like that in a big truck with a trailer across a busy freeway. You really did that? And he's just like chilling. Not even affected. Didn't care. Judging by the look on his face. Well, that was California. Letting in tens of thousands, tens of millions of illegal aliens and then don't check them and give them driver's licenses. Fake driver's licenses, clearly, because the guy couldn't even speak or read English. And he killed somebody on our streets. Imagine if that was your family, how you would feel. Somebody that should have been alive right now if that dude would have stayed where he was. It had not been. He could even be here, but you can't give him a commercial driver's license. He can't even read. Probably can't read in his own language, much less read in English as well. But you see how you get power and money out of this stuff. And if you get power and money out of allowing a situation to flourish under your leadership and under your command, then clearly you're going to keep allowing it to flourish. That's why I say, again, this is all premeditated. It's all done on purpose. Crime and all this stuff could be stopped whenever they choose. It's a question of politics and political will. And if they don't have the political will to end some negative situation and improve the lives of their own citizens, like, dude, first of all, why are you still voting for them? What possibly are you getting from them? And I mean leaders in every party, both parties. If they're treating you that bad, see, black people, I think, are starting to wake up. They're starting to realize that the Democrat Party nationally is talking about these illegal aliens and just extending the welcome mat to them, but have still never improved the lives of their own constituents, their own black people in these cities that have been black for decades, black-led for decades, and haven't improved their lives whatsoever. And Republicans, by the way, just as full of it. Like I say, I ain't studying now team. I'm not down with the red team or the blue team. I don't gang bang. What Ice Cube say? I don't bang. I rock the good rhymes. Yeah, I ain't down with the blue or the red. I ain't throwing up signs on none of their behalf. I'm down with liberty. I would like my money to be left alone, my rights to be untrampled, private property to extend the way it should and be left alone. The ability to do with my life as I choose. That's called freedom. That's what I'm down with. That's the team I'm down with. Down with OPP? Yeah. No. Down with my own property, not other people's P. But yeah, this is political theater, I believe. And what it sets us up for, in addition to central bank digital currencies and digital IDs, biometric digital IDs online, it also sets us up for false flag attacks and operations where don't be surprised. If you see this in the news, don't be surprised. There's a big Somebody sprayed up a crowd of illegal aliens and killed them all, killed dozens or hundreds of illegal aliens at some kind of ICE roundup. And they're going to say, see, it was a Trump supporter. He's a racist. Well, okay, that's a possibility, but just don't be surprised when it happens and don't fall for the first story that comes out. They already attacking ICE left and right all over the country. California, get this, California had mandatory masking during COVID, knowing a mask ain't gonna stop nothing, but now they make it illegal for ICE agents to wear a mask. Ain't that a funny thing that happened on the way to the store the other day? I tell you what, these people, man, I just don't see how you don't see that it's political willpower. It's a political choice to have guns, gun crime, drug crime, violence. When you do away with all of the mores that we have in this society, mores are the unwritten rules that kind of bind people, the roles and responsibilities of freedom. When you do away with all those roles and responsibilities that used to function as guardrails and guide rails, you can't be upset when things go off the rails. You took away church in prayer in school. You took away, you denigrate religion left and right. You highlight every form of immorality and act like it's the best thing ever, including murder, suicide, and all other kind of antisocial behavior. When you glorify that stuff, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen to society? You think society is going to get better? Mankind is the kind of thing that I realize more and more as I get older and older. God created us in such a way that we create our own bars. We raise the bar on ourselves and we get better. But when we strive for stuff, we fail because we're human. We don't ever reach the thing we set for ourselves, the high goals, freedom, justice, and equality. We never reach those because we're human. But you set them because you go higher and higher every decade and every century if you're reaching upward. But when you tell people it's okay to not be married, to have children out of wedlock, when you tell people it's okay to dress like disgusting slobs in public, come out of the house in bonnets and house shoes and stuff, pajamas. It's okay to use the bathroom on the street and use drugs on the street. When you allow that to happen, you're giving them a low bar to reach down to. So you can't be upset or surprised when it turns out people live down to the bar, to the low expectations you set for them. Man's strength, again, is when I say man, for all you unaware out there, it means mankind, all of us. I'm not talking about men and women, I'm talking about humans. When mankind sets high goals for itself and virtues, we tend to try to live up to them. And even like that old saying, even when we fail to live up to them, that's okay because we're shooting for the stars. So even if you miss, we shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you're still amongst the stars. How's that go? Donnie Simpson used to say that on video. So it's true. If you're shooting for the moon, even if you miss, you're going to fall short because we're human, but you'll still be way up there amongst the stars. Politicians know that, by the way. Certain schools you go to, leadership, tactics, techniques, and principles. They teach you this stuff. They don't teach you and me this stuff because we're not leadership. But when you go to Yale and Harvard and your instructors and professors are former diplomats and former ambassadors and former statesmen and former high-level legal people, they know these secrets of leadership. They know these secrets of power, unspoken laws of power. They teach you how to let your city be a shambles and squalor, full of misery, but always get reelected because you can promise to fix it. Never do it, just promise. Give people handouts here and there. Create jobs for your cronies. Y'all know where I'm going with this. Anyway, I'm just saying, don't be misled by this political theater, all this ICE stuff and all this anti-immigration stuff. By the way, you want to talk about who's really anti-immigration? Look it up. They used to call Barack Obama the long-legged Mac Daddy. They used to call him the deporter in chief because his record still hasn't been beat. Trump is doing this political theater. They going around doing all this ICE stuff, arresting a few hundred people. Obama deported 2 million people or 3 million people or something like that. I think it was 3 million by the end of his term, both his terms. Nobody has ever, and nope, it was like, I think Reagan, no, I think it was George Bush, or one of the Bushes had 1 million. Clinton had 1 million, Bush had 2 million, Obama had like 3. Obama is still the deporter in chief. Trump is trying to make it look good for the cameras, but every time I look at him, he deporting 15, 20, 100, 200, 300. You ain't gonna get to 3 million doing it that way. You know what I'm saying? So let's you want to be outraged, why ain't nobody mad at Obama? And that's exactly why they put Obama in office, because as a black man, as a person of color, people who look like me, he could do all kind of stuff and get away with it. I used to hate George Bush because he was the way he was so arrogant and the way he started these unnecessary wars. Then you come to find out Obama dropped more bombs than Bush did and killed American citizens willy-nilly with his drone strikes. Used to wake up every Tuesday and drop who we gonna kill today. He liked it. People around him said he seemed to enjoy it. That's your first black president there. Deporter in chief, President Barack Hussein Obama. But let's forget about that and just be mad at Orange Man. Be mad at Trump. Make you feel better that way. Meanwhile, while all these black people out there feeling better being mad at Trump, he cleaning up these cities where black people been in charge for 100 years. You know what I'm saying? Sad, sickening, and totally predictable. Well, anyway, Laura, Lubbock. I was going to say, Lord, give me strength, because this stuff is so depressing. But anyway, Lubbock, don't fall for the okie doke. Don't let them use all this distraction, all this political theater to extract even more power and money from us, the lowly people who actually are all in the same boat. And all of these leaders that we looking up to have nothing but contempt and disgust for each one of us. And you can tell by the way they let you live in squalor. Well, I don't know how to end this on a positive note. It just is what it is. So thank y'all for tuning in. It's Robert Jenkins reminding y'all, don't give in to the political theater. Think for yourself, look for yourself, read. And man, don't be led into any kind of nonsense and violence over what these people are doing, because that's exactly what they want to see. Anyway, signing off for the LBK show, Robert Jenkins. Peace.